What's going on, everybody? My name's Andy and welcome to my Game Week 25 preview. We're getting through them now. We're nearly getting towards the business end of the season at this point. Feels like I haven't done a video for a little while. That's probably just because obviously we're in the FA Cup weekend right now. I'm recording this on Saturday. There's actually the Spurs game going on as I record this, so hopefully nothing major happens in that game. But we're going to talk about it anyway. But yeah, this is the preview for Game Week 25, which is obviously coming midweek. So I'm recording this a little bit early. There's probably going to be a bit more news, but I want to get it out there in time because I'll be streaming on Monday. So let's just jump straight into it. I'll go you through the kind of talking points for this week up until now, plus my team, captain thoughts and transfers, etc. So let's just jump into it. So this is us for Game Week 25. This is how my team looks right now. No transfers made. Last week I got 55 points. I was a non-Agüero owner. We're going to talk about Agüero again. Obviously got it wrong last week. He did pretty well in the end, even though one of the goals was a bit lucky with his hair. But anyway, 55 points was okay. I dropped, I think, less than 1,000 places, so it wasn't the end of the world. Obviously, if you've watched the streams, the videos, the Scoutcast, etc., you know I've pretty much got the template team. Up until this week was obviously the Arnautovic injury. That was in the top 10k, the template team apart from goalkeeper. So I had the highest owned players in all positions. Some people seem to think that I've done that on purpose. It's not like I bought all these players in when they were the highest owned players, but it's just what's happened. But obviously the good news is the next transfer I make will obviously make my team a little bit less template. So we'll talk about that later. But 55 points, dropped a few thousand places. Less than a few thousand places, so hopefully get a better score this week and start bringing it up. So as always, I'm going to go through the talking points first of all. Some of that will link in with my own team. I will use my team as reference because some of you have probably got similar teams and probably thinking along the same lines. So let's just start off with Masuaku. I don't have him, but a lot of people had him from the double game week left over. Obviously he's cheap in a West Ham team with good fixtures. Well, he played in the FA Cup today. I can't remember who they were playing, but I've seen the news that he spat at someone, got sent off. That's a 6-game ban, so he's not going to be back till like the end of March now. So if you've got him, maybe not a huge rush to get him out unless he's one of the players you were banking on having to play every week. But like for me, I've got me and Duffy. I don't need to worry about them because I've got 3 better players generally every week. But if he's one of your first team regulars, then he probably needs to go at this point. So just to let you know about that. Kane and Eriksen are in the red because Spurs are just underway. Like I say, if something major happens in that game, then unfortunately, obviously, I won't be able to cover it. But Kane has started that game, weirdly. Ali and Son are on the bench. Eriksen and Lloris as well miss out. Now, I wouldn't read too much into that right now. We haven't heard any news that they're injured and stuff. Spurs have got a really tough run of games. In the Premier League, they've got Man United, Liverpool and Arsenal in succession. And they've got Juventus in the Champions League for their next 4 fixtures. So it's no wonder that potentially Lloris and Eriksen are getting a rest. Yes, it's a little bit strange to rest a keeper, but it is the FA Cup and it's probably a game they should be winning anyway with Vorm in goal. So keep an eye on that. And obviously, if after this video Kane's gone and got injured, then my transfer moves will be completely different. I'll probably be more up for getting Agüero, but we'll come on to him more in a minute. Arnautovic is obviously injured, red flag now, so I think he's out you know, for at least a couple of weeks, unless we get any different news from West Ham. Lots of ways you can handle this situation. I mean, around the 7 million mark, you've got players like Willian, although he's just got injured as well. Pedro just for a little bit more money. Walcott's 7.1, I believe, now. You could downgrade. Stoke players are really in... people are talking about Stoke players a lot more because they're running fixtures. You've got Shaqiri around the 6 million. Choupo-Moting at 5.4. Even Joe Allen keeps getting mentioned. I'm still undecided about what to do. If you've got money to upgrade, then there's still plenty of midfielders I think are worth taking a look at. You've got players like David Silva, although you've still probably got to worry about his obviously his family situation. Hopefully everything goes well there, but we still don't know if he's going to be missing games. Sané, probably getting a bit more of a look in now in Man City's fixtures. So there's loads of players you could go for. For my personal team, I'm going to have to... I'll tell you when I come on to the transfers because I've got so many different ways of playing it this week that I just don't know exactly which way I'm going to go right now. So I'll let you know which players I'm thinking about in a sec when we come on to them. I've put Lingard in there because obviously no one's transferring him in now. He blanked in the last 2 games. He's got Spurs away now. No one's transferring him in. I'm not going to tell you to. It'd be ridiculous. But a lot of people are transferring him out already. Now, most of them jumped on the bandwagon, I guess, at the wrong time. He's just blanked twice. But he's still in the team. He's still cheap. It's a Man United team that can still score goals. Yes, it was the FA Cup, but we just beat Yeovil 4-0. Sanchez is in the team now. I suppose the problem with Lingard is a lot of people think that maybe Sanchez is going to come into the team and take his place. Recently, we've been playing Lukaku up front with a 3 behind of Martial, Lingard, and Mata. So Sanchez is going to take one of those places. There's no way that he stays out of the team. You'd hope, as a Man United fan, that it's not Martial that comes out because he's been so good. Even Lingard's been pretty good. And Mata on the right is a good player, skillful player. He's creative, but he's very slow. And I think that attack needs a bit more pace. So my preference and a lot of the talk is that Sanchez goes on the right and Lingard keeps playing through the middle, or they'll swap. So maybe Sanchez gets the number 10 free roll behind Lukaku and Lingard moves to the right. Either way, I'm going to keep hold of Lingard. And I think it's probably the right move given his price and the team that he's in. Mourinho and Man United, yes, against Spurs, they might park the bus, but generally, they're right up there with a goal scored in the Premier League this season. I think only Liverpool and Man City are ahead of them, so they're not doing as bad as previous seasons, especially under Van Gaal. And also, after Spurs away, it's Huddersfield at home and Newcastle away, so they're good fixtures. So if you've got like a really good transfer to make, possibly using him as a make weight to upgrade Arnautovic, then fair enough. But I think generally people, they've got him in at obviously the wrong time. He's blanked and now they're raised transferring out. And I think you've just got to keep Jay Lings because he's a great player. And then talking about Sanchez, now I kind of want to get him in. It's a bit of bias. He's playing for Man United now, so suddenly to me he becomes a better prospect. Or maybe not a better prospect, but a more favourable prospect. You'd hope, as a Man United fan, you'd hope that he's less kind of grouchy now, less grumpy, and he wants to play. He's playing for a better team, higher up the table, more chance of winning trophies, I would say. Although obviously Arsenal just got through to the League Cup final, which Man United got knocked out of, but still in the FA Cup, so all good there. He's still very expensive. I think the sensible move is definitely not to get him this week because it's Spurs away. But you could look at that match and see where he plays, how Man United play, and kind of how much free roll he's got, how much attacking intent they have, and go from there. Because then it's Huddersfield at home, which he's potentially captain material on. But I think the sensible move, without my club bias getting in the way, is to not bring him in because he's still at 11 odd million. Especially if you've gone for Kane and Agüero, it's probably almost impossible to get him in unless you've really butchered your team elsewhere. So for me, I think you don't get him in. There's still so much value in midfield. I know we've been saying that all season, but I still think it's the case. Lots of the points are coming from midfield, and they're coming from a pretty cheap price. So hold off on Sanchez. But for me, I am looking into it. I keep mentioning it. I'll look at that when we come on to transfers, of which Agüero is also part of the conversation. So big talk this week about Agüero, right? So I didn't think he was going to be on it. I think, yes, he scored quite a few goals this year already, but I don't think he was quite the player he was. I said that the Man City midfielders were very cheap and also in the points. Obviously got that wrong. He got a hat-trick. Now, 3 goals, 1 penalty. I don't want to take that. Some people have said, well, he's not going to get a penalty every week. But one of the reasons you buy Agüero, same reason you buy Kane, is because they're on penalties. So when they get one, they bang it away 9 times out of 10. So fair enough, he got a penalty. Man City have got the pace and the wingers to win penalties. It could happen again against West Brom. Other goal, fair enough. Again, nice setup by Sané, nice finish. And then the third goal, I still don't know if it touched his hair. Once he got given the goal, it was probably never going to get taken away from him, to be fair. But he's not going to get that lucky again. But it would have still been a 2-goal brace. Most people captained him. They came out really well out of that. He's got a nice fixture against West Brom. He's pulling good numbers as well. Now, for me, realistically, the only way I can get him in is for Kane in a one-swap move, or a hit maybe if I want to get rid of Arnautovic. Do I want to get rid of Kane? Kane exits failed already once this season. I think this is a bit different because Kane has Man United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. Now, to be fair, Spurs' home form is pretty good. Sun plays pretty well at home as well. Man United have conceded, I said this on the Scoutcast, have conceded the most amount of shots, I think, in the box in the last 4 game weeks. They only draw level with Southampton, which is ridiculous. And if you've watched their games, they should have conceded against Burnley. They should have conceded against Stoke. Yes, they got David De Gea there, obviously the best keeper in the world, arguably. He's always going to save their bacon at times. But sooner or later, especially when a better team like Spurs comes knocking, they're going to put goals past Man United. So I'm playing Jones this week. I'm a little bit worried about it. But I think Kane could score there. Now, if you're going to bet money and place a bet on who's going to score more points, Kane or Agüero, then over the next 3 fixtures, yeah, you'd probably say Agüero. But for those of you taking out Kane, you're definitely going to want him back, I think, after those 3 fixtures, because for Spurs, they're quite favourable. So that's a transfer out and a transfer back in. Now, potentially you could do that for free, but if you're starting to rack up injuries, suspensions, things like that, then transfers start to become pretty important around this time of the year. Obviously, one thing I've not mentioned in the points, which I should have, is there's going to be, unless there's like a 5th round replay, I think, in the FA Cup for Man City, there's going to be no blanks in Game Week 28, so we'll keep an eye on that. But that's obviously changed things because now that's extra transfers you can use. But still, I don't really want to take out Kane just to bring him back in 4 game weeks' time to get Aguero's probably better points. But I just, one thing that won't get considered is the moves you make in the meantime. I know I could get punished, but I think West Brom are a better team than Newcastle. They've been doing well defensively recently, so I wouldn't expect Aguero to go and score a back-to-back hat-trick like Kane did. But next week I could be sat here eating my words. So for me, I'm not going to do it. I'm not saying Aguero's not going to score points. I'm not saying you shouldn't get him in. I said last week, in fact, that if you could get him in a like kind of 1 or maybe a 4-point hit move, especially if you had players like Morata, then maybe it was worth it. But for me, it's either Kane out, which I don't want to do, or it's Firmino out, who's also got a really nice run of fixtures. Now, they didn't do very well against Swansea Liverpool, but they got the fixtures to turn that around. And additionally, not only would it mean removing Firmino, if I want to get rid of Arnautovic as well, it's an 8-point hit because there's not really any players I can swap out for Arnautovic to then afford Firmino to Agüero because I've got 0.1 million in the bank. So yeah, that's my take on Agüero. It's a tough one. It's going to be a big talking point in the community this week. If he goes and bangs another hat-trick, then I'm going to be sat here looking like an idiot, but I'll still be here because this is what we do. Back-to-back hat-tricks, missing out on them will be not the end of the world, but it will hurt. So I'm not going to get Agüero. Now, one of the reasons is because I'm looking at Sanchez. So let's come on to my transfer decision. So I'm looking at a defence which is very expensive right now. Otamendi, Jones and Alonso. Don't really want to get rid of any of them right now, but Otamendi in particular has conceded in the last 3. John Stones has not done very well for Man City since he came back. They were keeping many more clean sheets while he was out. They are supposed to be either buying or looking to try and buy Laporte. So maybe, hopefully I pronounced that right. Hopefully he'll come in instead of Stones and kind of shore up that defence with Otamendi. But Otamendi's a possible make weight for me soon. Because Man City's fixtures do get a little bit tougher. You'd expect them to win them, of course. They're the best team in the league this year. They are going to get a bit tougher soon. So right now I have every transfer you can think of, I'm thinking about. So if I want to get Sanchez in, then the move is Arnautovic this week to Choupo-Moting or someone cheaper. If you watch the Scout Cash, you'd have heard me mention Goodmanson. I think that's how you pronounce it, from Burnley, the Icelander. His stats are pretty good right now for a 5 million player. That would then next week for a 4-point hit let me do Son, who's got Liverpool away, which is a tough fixture. That let me do Son to Sanchez by doing Otamendi to like a 4.3 million pound defender. So it would mean I've got to use kind of Duffy and me more. But I'd have Sanchez captain against Huddersfield, and that's a big pull, especially as a Man United fan. So that's one thing I'm looking at. The thing I don't like about that is, because of this is another consideration, is not to get rid of Arnautovic this week, lose some money on him, and just play Crouch. And I know Crouch didn't start the last game. I'd be backing on him either starting or coming on and scoring. But that would let me make the Sanchez decision next week, because the reason I'm saying I need to do it this week is if I transfer out Arnautovic, I can't transfer him for someone too expensive, because then I won't be able to afford Sanchez and a 4-point hit. It's then going to cost me an 8-point hit, and then it's not a move I necessarily want to make so much. And obviously, I'm swapping out Otamendi and a 7 million midfielder just to afford Sanchez, and I'm swapping them down to quite cheap players. So I don't know what I'm going to do with Sanchez. I really want him on my team next week, but I don't want to make a sacrifice of like Salah, Sterling, Firmino, or Kane to do it. But he's such a differential. I haven't checked since the Scoutcast, but he's around 3% ownership overall. Players aren't going to be rushing to get him just because they won't be able to afford him with Kane, and looking at getting Agüero, who's obviously flavour of the week right now, flavour of the month, if you will. The other thing I'm looking at is maybe Arnautovic and Son to someone like Shaqiri, and then that will give me a bit of money to upgrade Son to like Sané, someone like that, or Mahrez, maybe even get Mane in, something like that. I don't know right now, and I know that's a rubbish way to kind of end the preview of the video, because I'm sure you're all wanting answers, but there's so much to think about that I just don't want to make the decision right now. So Arnautovic will almost certainly go. I just need to decide whether I really want Sanchez. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Am I ignoring Agüero and looking at Sanchez? Is that all the wrong reasons? I mean, Sanchez is going to be a massive differential captain against Huddersfield when loads of people won't have him. Who knows? Will he do the business at Man United? Is it okay to let Otamendi go? I mean, Son, I'm not hugely like looking to get rid of this week because I know Mourinho will park the bus, but he's been so good at home. And I think going back to Spurs, like I said, Man United at home, they could get goals. Arsenal at home, I really don't think is a hard fixture for them right now. Sure, they're probably not going to win score 4, 5, 6 goals, but they can get a few there. And Liverpool away is probably the tougher one because Liverpool have been so good at home. But they do have a defence that's prone to make mistakes. So I'm not in a rush to get rid of those Spurs players, but I can absolutely see why people are. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I'm going to captain Salah as it stands, so I think he's the best choice. Sterling may be getting a look in, but his numbers have gone down a bit, and Aguero is obviously getting the points right now for Man City. So not necessarily so interested in captaining him. I think it's got to be Salah. He's been so consistent, but did blank against Swansea. But maybe Liverpool are unlucky to score there. So I'm going to leave it there. Let me know in the comments below everything I've said. What have I got wrong? What have I got right? Am I absolutely mad not to get Aguero? Am I mad to be thinking about Sanchez? I don't know. Is Kane expendable? Let me know. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Streaming on Monday before the game week starts. Streaming on Wednesday straight after the games. It's transfer deadline day. So join me there. It'll be about 10:10 o'clock. Leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe. See you later.